Good morning. We are back again with another missionary. I found Greg from Argentina, and he's here. We're really going to talk about the importance of training pastors, and we're going to have a really good conversation here. But before we go there, I'd like just to ask Greg about his life. I've been interviewing MKs, and you are a very big MK. You're not a kid anymore, but I've talked to them about being missionaries.
Yes.
When they grow up.
Yep.
And all of them told me no. Now, as you're growing up, was there a time in your life that you felt, I'm never going to be a missionary? Or was it always at the back of your mind that you're going to be a missionary like your parents? Because your parents are missionaries, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's correct. I don't think I ever thought that I was not going to be a missionary. I just didn't plan on being a missionary.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, I was born in Mexico, moved to Argentina when I was 9, lived there until I was 16, moved back to the United States as a family.
Yeah.
And that's where I came in contact with Denton Bible Church.
Yeah.
Was in the youth group. We went back for a year and then came back for college.
So you
with
are
no intentions of becoming a missionary at that point.
So you're unique in that way then, because you're born in the field.
Yes.
And then you moved fields.
Yes.
And then you came to America.
Yes.
So when you came to America to live here, how old were you?
I was, the first time I was 16 when I came with my family. But then I came back by myself to go to college.
Okay.
And what drove me to come back was the church.
Okay.
So that college was the excuse to come. I wanted to be I was encouraged by Denton Bible. And I wanted to be at Denton Bible and grow. But I had no intention of becoming a missionary at that point.
Yeah. So let's talk about this for a minute before we go to the main thing.
Yep.
Because is there hope for these kids that do you think they're just saying that right now, but they might change their mind? Was there a time in your mind where you thought never, or were you always open to it?
In my case, there wasn't a thought of never.
Okay.
I wasn't pursuing it.
Yeah.
I started to grow in my faith when I was here at Denton Bible.
Yeah.
And then at one point, I sensed a call to ministry.
Yeah.
When I was 19.
Okay. So talk about that.
So
because you're a missionary.
Yes.
So missionaries also have a calling. So it's not like, okay, you're born with this call, and you say no to it.
Yeah.
So,
you don't inherit your parents' call.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know, my kids, I don't know how the Lord's going to lead them. We're all called to ministry in the sense we're all called to serve God wherever God places us.
Yeah.
But there was a time where I sensed I want to give my life to full-time work.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I didn't view myself so much as a missionary as going back to the country that I grew up in and serving full-time there. Mm-hmm. So it was in college, during college life years, James Skinner was the pastor at the time, college pastor. And actually, one of the struggles I had as a missionary kid is insecurities. Yeah. Because when I was in Mexico, I was the American kid. When I was in Argentina, I was the Mexican kid. When I was in the United States, I was the Argentine. So I didn't know who I was. And so as a 16-year-old, I felt a lot of insecurity. So God used that insecurity to drive me to find my security in Him. Yeah. And when I was 19, I read my Bible that morning, and it was about Gideon feeling inadequate to do what God called him to do. Yeah. And I sensed that God was asking me to do something. I felt inadequate. And that night, the same day, James Skinner preached on Isaiah 6, the holiness of God. The type of people that God uses aren't people that have it all together, but people that realize the gap between God's holiness, their sinfulness, but that gap God has made a path for that gap. Yeah. And that God is more concerned about our being available than our abilities. Yeah. And so those are two passages on the same day that God used in my life to just drive me to, I was 19, to say, I want to serve God if He wills full-time. Back in Argentina, back in the country I grew up in, back with the friends that I see. I was being blessed by church, and I said, we don't have this in Argentina. Yeah. And it would be comfortable for me to stay here, but I can take what I'm learning and take it to Argentina.
So at 19, God calls you.
Yep.
And how long does it take before you go to the field?
So I tried to go after college. Yeah. I was a business computer information system degree.
So you didn't do Bible in college?
No. Oh. And I switched to business economics to finish quicker, to go back, because I knew I wanted to do full-time ministry. Yeah. I started enjoying teaching small group Bible studies, and if I can do this full-time, that would be great. Yeah. And so I wasn't as interested in spending my days doing business, although that's a great calling for those that are called to live the Christian life in that context. So I'm not minimizing that. Yeah. But for me, I would love to be able to give my life to teaching the Bible in Argentina. Yeah. And So I tried to go back after college. James Arnold and I made a trip. I don't know if James knows this.
Yeah.
And the pastor in a province called Mendoza invited me to go back and be the college pastor there.
Yeah.
And his son got sick, and so he had to return to the U.S. That got canceled.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And that's when the Lord led me to go to seminary, the Dallas Theological Seminary. And during that time, the whole time I'm learning, I'm thinking, I'm processing this through, how does this apply to Argentina?
Yeah.
So I'm taking classes like the history of the charismatic movement with John Hanna.
Yeah.
I'm listening to interviews on key leaders in Argentina and interviewing Scott Harrell, who was in Brazil, and just trying to think, how does this apply? So the whole time there was a sense of going back to Argentina. I thought it was going to be planting a church initially, but that was actually about 8 years later. So we arrived on the field, and well, let me rewind. I arrived 2000, and in those 2 years, I met my wife. We went back to the U.S.
So you met your wife in Argentina?
Yeah, she's Argentine. Went back to the U.S. for a year. Were sent out by Serve.
Yeah.
Before that was Navigators Church Discipleship Ministries.
Okay.
And in 2003, I thought we'd plant a church, but God led us to not do that at that point. So it was 7-8 years later until we actually had our first public service as a church. And in the meantime, we were, doing pastoral training and so forth.
So I'm still interested in the 19-year-old when God called you into full-time ministry and missions, until the time that you were in the field. How long was that? So 19, that would have been 92, 93. So in 2003, 2000 as a single guy, so about 7 years. Yeah, and that's important because most of the time people feel, I am called into ministry. Yeah. And I want to go today. Right. But when you look at even how God, took Moses. Totally. It was 40 years. Completely. Took him to Midian and prepared him and brought him back to Egypt. And I would say that it was even longer, to the point of what I sensed that God was calling me to do, that I'm doing now, what I sensed back then, which is to pastor a church. It's really been in the last years. So it's really almost been 20 years. Yeah. Yeah, and so that patience is good for people to hear that, especially in this culture time that we are in, that everybody wants everything to go so fast. That's right. And so we customize our calling, and we want to go in our time, not in God's time. Paul had to wait 14 years. Moses had to wait 40 years, and so forth. And waiting is part of the plan. Yep. And not just waiting, but God was preparing you during those times. I think it was Ian Bounds that said that it takes 25 years to make a sermon, because it takes 25 years to make the preacher. Yeah. 25 minutes. Was it 25 hours to make a sermon? 25 years. 25 years to make a sermon. 25 years for a sermon to be developed, because it takes 25 years to make the man, to make the preacher. The preacher is the one that's giving the sermon. Yes. So I want us to change gears a little bit. Yep. So you work in South America, I work in Africa. And one of the things that we actually are very passionate about training pastors and developing local churches. Yeah. But like I said a few days ago, the ministry of training pastors is not very romantic. No, it's not. Especially in context where we come from, where poverty is so loud. Yeah. And diseases are rampant. Yes. And all these things, poverty, orphans, and all these things. Yeah. And there's so many things that are clouding that. Yes. Now, let's talk about why specifically in South America, of all these things that you could choose from, you chose to train pastors and develop local churches. Well, it's a theological reason. Okay. So I think there's a centrality in the Bible. Mm-hmm. There's a message. 66 books, but there's a central message. Yeah. It all points to. I was talking to John Hanna yesterday, and he said we were talking about eschatology, the doctrine of the future things. Yeah. And he said the Bible talks more about the first coming than the second coming. Uh-huh. So there's a centrality in the message of the gospel. Yeah. Of what Christ has come to do. Yeah. The good news that we're sinners, that God made us, that Christ died in our place as a substitute to give us a righteousness that we don't have. That's central. His resurrection that gives us hope for our resurrection. Yeah. That's central in the Bible. But that gospel transforming message for the non-believer towards salvation and for the believer towards sanctification is displayed in the context of a local church. Okay. And so God is doing something right now, biblically, theologically speaking. He's making himself known to the nations through
local churches.
Okay, and that's very important.
So that's the theological foundation.
Yes.
That's what God's doing. I want to be where God is working.
Yes.
He's working through local churches. He's making himself known. That's not to minimize the work of parachurch ministries that have grow towards that.
Yeah. So just getting there, that God is doing something in the world.
Yes.
And spreading the gospel, and is doing it through the local church.
Yes.
Do you think the local church knows that?
I think many local churches don't know that.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yes. Now, there's a title of a book called The Church, the Gospel Made Visible. That's a wonderful subtitle.
I like that.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah,
The local church is meant, it's not just individuals making that message known.
Yeah.
It's the body of Christ locally displaying the main thing that the Bible's about.
Yeah.
So if that's true, we need healthy local churches. To have healthy local churches, we need healthy pastors that are equipped in Bible and that are equipped in how to pastor a church.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say my passion is the local church, my passion is the gospel, and my passion is to help pastors that are in the process like I am to lead churches towards being healthy churches.
Yeah, and so let's talk about your context of it, because I minister in Africa.
Yeah.
And the state of the church there is, if I may use a very common word that people use in this political context, is very deplorable.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
It's almost a place where people that profess Christ go to congregate one day a week.
Yes.
And after that congregation is done,
yeah.
then nothing else happens during the week until we meet again.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think what we're doing is very, very important.
Yes.
And so talk to the issue of training pastors in particular.
Yeah.
Does the health of the local church depend on the health of the pastor of that church?
Completely.
And if it does, why? And why don't people see that?
Because there is a central component for healthy. It's not the only component, but it's a central component. And that is the preaching of the word.
Yeah.
Faithful, expository preaching.
Yeah.
And most pastors around the world don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Or not only do they not know how to do it, they don't know they should be doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's not the only component of a healthy church, but it's foundational. If you don't have that, you're not going to have a healthy church.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we do, is to try to do that through various means, whether it be online resources, BTCP, Simeon Trust workshops.
Yeah.
We want to be a blessing to pastors so that they can feed the flock, so the church can be what it's meant to be, the pillar of truth. And display the gospel.
Yeah. So how are you doing this in South America? Like, I know you're a big part of a network of trainers of pastors in South America, but how are you doing that? And how can more people put this message out there that the pastor's health, theological health, is very key to the development of the local church?
Yes.
How are you guys doing that in South America?
So I always have to go back. In the stage that God has placed me right now, I'm pastoring a church that is still developing. We're developing elders and so forth. So my highest priority has to be a good pastor right now at this stage. Because if I'm going to do, I use the analogy, if I'm going to do marriage counseling, or I'm going to talk about the family, that needs to be true in my own family.
Yes.
And so as I'm helping other pastors, I need to seek to display that locally. It's not going to be a perfect church, it's not going to be a perfect pastor. But we're moving towards health. There's things we need to improve, there's things we need to change, but we're moving towards that and applying, so then I can hopefully we can be a model church to others. So that's foundational. But then specifically we continue to use BTCP, a program that trains pastors, Bible Training Center for Pastors. We use we have a workshop that we do. It's not ours. It's a ministry called Simeon Trust. We've been using or relating to this ministry. I'm now involved with them as an instructor. Yeah. And that is a workshop that is 3 days. Yeah. We do once a year, and it rotates in different genres of the Bible. And we do conferences. Yeah. And the conferences have several purposes: to model expository sermons with the speakers. Yeah. To encourage the pastors and leaders that come. To provide books and resources, to provide networking opportunities for those that arrive. Yeah. Another thing we're trying to do is to create a regular phone call with various pastors that are on the call, encourage each other, help each other. Yeah. So those are a few things that we're doing in Argentina. So,
and this can be a long discussion. I just want to, this is kind of like an introduction to a very important issue of training pastors around the world. And so we're running out of time right now, but I just wanted to say that the issue of training pastors is very key, because the health of the global church is dependent, humanly speaking, on the health of the local church. So the more local churches we can find healthy, the more the health of the church big C is. And
the best way to impact a group is by impacting its leadership. And God has placed leadership in the hands of pastoral elders to lead that flock. And so if you're able to impact the pastoral elders, you can impact the local churches.
Yes. And as we finish, I just want to say there is a global movement right now to change the world, and everybody is throwing money at it. Everybody is doing all these things to change the world. But as believers, we need to be assured and to believe that the only way that the world is going to change is through the gospel. And the gospel, like Greg has just told us so eloquently, the institution that God left here to spread the gospel to the world is the local church. And the local church is led, whether we like it or not, by pastors and elders. And so we need to be in the business of doing that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amen.
So thank you, Greg, for coming,
it's
and
good to be here.
it was fun interviewing you. Yes. So I hope that was helpful for those of you who are watching, and God is blessing you. And if you're a pastor, be encouraged. God is going to use you to change this world. Amen.
Amen.